Hi there, I'm Colin Lamb, aka the Tone Wizard, and I would like to take you back to the year 2003. The place, Ontario, Canada. Now, to put things into historical perspective, I'm going to share some information relative to what I'm talking about. Rappers 50 Cent and Sean Paul were tearing up the charts that year with hits I did not listen to at the time and therefore cannot recall now. Evanescence was watering down the goth aesthetic for a new generation of young women who would soon become way too hot to talk to me in college, and the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia was renamed Serbia and Montenegro. I was 19 years old at the time, and although I'd been drinking in the wooded areas surrounding my home in rural Keswick, Ontario, Canada, I had just turned 19 and was now old enough to legally purchase and consume my own alcohol. The U.S. had just invaded Iraq again, and countless bottles of Molson export were now invading my stomach, forming the basis of what would soon become this beer gut. Now, behind the backdrop of all these truly historic events, there was something else going on. There was something gripping the nation with fear, something that we may all be too familiar with right now in this current state of affairs. And I am, of course, talking about SARS. Now, if I say SARS and you say, what the fuck is SARS? I'm going to tell you what SARS was. SARS is, I guess it's still around, the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. It was a disease that kind of came around in 2003, and we didn't know what was going to happen, right? I think it affected 8,000 people with a fatality rate of 11%, and I don't think it's been reported since 2004. But don't quote me on this because I'm not a fucking doctor, obviously. I think it may be kind of related to what the COVID-19 that we have now going around. But anyways, it was gripping the nation with fear, and let me tell you what we did. What did we do? Did we lock everything down? Did we shut everything down? Did we throw everything into turmoil? No. What did the best minds of our time do? We fucking rocked. That's right. We had a concert with 450,000 people outside in Toronto, Ontario. I think it was organized by the Rolling Stones. And we fucking rocked. We had a huge concert, and I kind of wanted to just share my recollection of this event because I was actually there, and I got to say I really enjoyed it. And I don't want to suggest in any way that what's going on now is not serious. I'm not a doctor. You should listen to people who know what the fuck they're talking about and not me. But I am going to tell you what we did back when we had the SARS, man. It was announced that there would be a huge concert. It would be hosted by Danakroyd, Jim Belushi, and Jan Arden, and the lineup would include Have Love Will Travel, which is the Blues Brothers band from the Blues Brothers movie, minus obviously John Belushi, plus Jim Belushi, the lesser of the two brothers, in the opinion of many. I do not know, but anyways, Sam Roberts, Kathleen Edwards, LeChican, I don't even know if I pronounced that properly. Don't remember them performing. The Tea Party, Flaming Lips, Sass Jordan, the Isley Brothers, Blue Rodeo, Justin Timberlake, and the Guess Who, Rush, ACDC, and the Rolling Stones. That was a fucking tremendous lineup of artists that we had there to help us out, to help us recover from SARS. So the event cost $21 million to put on, and there were 150,000 tickets sold immediately, and the other 240,000 became available at A&P Grocers. I think they were $20. I seem to recall them being about $20 a ticket, or I may have even got one free. I think I could be wrong about this, but I think as the event drew closer, they actually started giving them away for free. Don't quote me on that because I don't fucking remember, but I am going to talk about what I do what I do remember, and I'm going to get into some stories that I remember from the event because that's really what this video is about. I tried to frame it seriously. I tried to put it together well for you. I don't know if I have, but I hope I have. So, I remember driving down to the event. I remember we didn't have any alcohol. We didn't stop to buy alcohol. It was too crazy around the concert to get any. Maybe we had a beer or something like that before we went down. But I went down with three of my friends, Adam, Dave, and his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. I don't know what the fuck was going on in their relationship at the time. It seemed a bit frosty. If you're out there, Dave, watching, I doubt you are. But let me know what was going on there all these years later. In any event, we drove on down there. It was held at Downsview Park, which is a former military base, and they had just had 800,000 people on the grounds when the Pope came in 2002. Obviously, the Pope's a bit of bigger draw than a pandemic or an epidemic or whatever it was. I don't know. If you saw the Pope, maybe let me know in the comments below. Let me know what the Pope played that night. What was his set list like? Because Rush did a couple of really good tunes, and ACDC blew the fucking roof off. So let me know what the Pope did. Let me know if he took a solo. I don't know. But yeah, I remember getting there. The parking was everything was pretty well run, but we had a bit of a hike into the main event. And if you can see the photo above me, if you see the sound booth, which is kind of directly in front of the stage in the middle, that's where I made it up to. And I will never forget making it up to that point. And I climbed up some of the rigging, and I looked back over the people, and it was just a fucking sea of people. And it's funny to me to think about that now, because obviously what we're going through today, which is COVID, if you're watching this in the future and we've eradicated it, fucking good for mankind. But right now we're in the midst of that bullshit. And I just remember looking back across a sea of fucking people, more people than I'll probably ever see again in my life. And it was astounding. And I thought that the event was pretty well run. There was, I believe, I remember people complaining about water, but I do remember it was being handed out. My recollection is that there were these watering stations where they just started handing it out. And yeah, I got a couple of stories that I do remember. Justin Timberlake actually performed, and I think this may have been just after he left the boy band there, and he was kind of trying to get out on his own. He was playing instruments, and he was doing a good job. And I think a lot of the music that he put out at that time is now quite well respected, but at the time he was not a respected figure. And actually, I remember during his performance, somebody brought a giant inflatable dick. Like, I couldn't smuggle a beer in. Somebody managed to smuggle in a massive inflatable dick, and they wrote Timberlicker on the side of it. And that was bouncing around during his performance. And apparently people were throwing shit at him. I didn't see that, but I've watched some of the videos since, and you could see that people were whipping shit at him the whole time. In a 2011 Playboy interview, Justin Timberlake said, quote, "That was terrible. I mean, I got beer cans thrown at me the whole fucking day. That was the most humiliated I ever felt as a musician." So bravo, Canada. Bravo, Ontario. We made a man feel welcome when he was coming to help us during a time of an epidemic. That's kind of a low point for us, but whatever. I also I do remember that people were throwing muffins, and I don't know where they got these muffins from. Apparently they were selling muffins. I couldn't find any. I was hungry and delirious, and actually I fell asleep in the sun waiting for the concert to show, like in the feet of hundreds of thousands of people. I just was tired. I went down, and it was shady. I remember that. It was shady because you could just stand in the shade of people. And anyways, my buddy drew a smiley face on or maybe I put it on there. I don't fucking know. But somebody, maybe me, put a smiley face and sunscreen on, and it fucking burnt. I had a burnt smiley face on me for the next month. So I'll always remember that. I also remember Danakroyd coming out, and he was kind of from an older generation. And he's like, "Hello, everybody, I'm Danakroyd." And no one gave a shit. And then he said, "From Ghostbusters." And everybody went wild. So the moral of the story is, Ghostbusters up here, Danakroyd maybe down there. Maybe that's changed since, I don't know. But I'll always remember that. And what else? I remember seeing the Flaming Lips. They're pretty good. I'd heard of them, but never actually seen them. And that was kind of cool to see. I don't think I appreciated them at the time, but they did put on a pretty good show. The Tea Party was great. If you're not Canadian, you might not know about the Tea Party, but they're an absolutely fantastic band. You should check them out if you get the chance. Sass Jordan was a Canadian artist. I don't really remember much about Sass Jordan. Blue Rodeo, I've been into. Obviously, I'm from Ontario. Canada. I've been into Blue Rodeo my whole life. They put on a good show. But moving into the big acts of the night were the Guess Who, Rush, ACDC, and of course the Rolling Stones. The Guess Who opened with These Eyes, and it was fucking fantastic. I mean, all he had to do was Burton Cummings. These eyes long to hold you. I think I got the lyrics wrong, but it was fantastic. I gained a much larger appreciation for the Guess Who than I'd ever had. And I hope you enjoyed that performance. That was free. The tickets to this fucking thing cost $20. That was absolutely free. So you're welcome. But I remember them being really good. And aside from American Woman and stuff like that, I ended up getting into them, and I actually found that the Burton Cummings is a bit of a strange character, but I can get into that some other time. If you just type in Burton Cummings sings national anthem, you're welcome. Maybe I'll put a link to a video of that in the comments below there, but definitely check that out. I remember that Rush played. I think it went the Guess Who, Rush, ACDC, and the Rolling Stones. Rush played. They were a band that I was not really into, and each band I think only played like a short set. I think the Rolling Stones played a longer set, but Rush really impressed me. And it's embarrassing to say this now because they're clearly amazing, but they really impressed me in that performance. After Rush was ACDC, and Akadaka blew the fucking roof off of the joint. And a lot of people don't know this about ACDC. My wife is actually Australian, and she always thought of them as an Australian band, which they do operate out of Australia, but they are all Scottish immigrants to Australia. If you didn't know that, they're all very Scottish if you'd never heard them talk. Even the replacement singer for Bon Scott is also a Scottish immigrant as well. Little fact there for you. Anyhow, they put on a funny performance. I remember the guitar player Malcolm stripped off his pants and had a Canadian set of underwear on. It was very hilarious. Years later, I saw Fat Mike from NoFX do a similar thing, and I was like, it's been fucking done, man. Pack it up. Still a good show. Love NoFX, though. But yeah, the Rolling Stones closed out the night, and what I will say is that the previous three bands played the pants off of them. The Rolling Stones, I mean, they're a spectacle. Obviously, they have a great musical legacy, and I'm not going to talk any amount of shit off them, but I will say at Sarsfest, it was kind of geriatric. That's what I remember my experience of it being. And, you know, when you see a band of a similar vintage like the Guess Who get up there and play the way they did, I was a little bit disappointed. I ended up leaving the concert during that set. We decided we would leave. We saw a couple of songs. We heard them play Satisfaction, and it was almost unintelligible. I don't know if there were sound issues or whatever, but I wasn't really feeling it. And my friends and I, we got back into my buddy's 1995 Dodge Neon, and we barreled home from the show. And I remember he was doing like 220 clicks or something on the highway home, and he was fucking tailgating. I remember that, Dave. And I remember fearing for my life, but being too kind of timid and maybe tired to say anything. But man, he was fucking driving like way too fast and right on the bumper of the car in front of us. And also his girlfriend, I don't know if it was his girlfriend at the time, can't remember, she like fell asleep in the back seat, and she had her head in my lap, you know. And at the time, you know, I didn't get a lot of attention from the ladies. That was a bit of an encounter for me by my sad fucking standards. And yeah, it made me feel incredibly uncomfortable and nervous, you know. And maybe I got to deal with that going forward. I don't know. But anyways, that is my recollection of the event. And my conclusions about it were that obviously that event is different than what we're going through right now. And I don't want to make any direct comparisons. And I'm not suggesting that anyone is overreacting or underacting what's going on right now. You need to listen to the doctors and the scientists and blah, 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 blah. Thank you for watching this video. I got through it. Stayed up last night drinking 2 wine, but hey, you want to check out some of the other stuff on my channel, please go ahead. I do a series on Ween called Ween Talk. If you want to subscribe, or if you think anything I've said in this video is interesting or stupid, please let me know in the comments below. But you take care of yourself, and I'll be taking care of myself. And then let me leave you with this, actually. This might be the most important thing